Welcome back to Flashback Files, where our aim is to help students, recent grads, and young professionals reflect on how early experiences shape confidence, identity, and leadership. Today's guest is Sara. Sara is in grade 12 and currently living in a really interesting in-between stage, balancing school, a part-time job in the restaurant industry, and competing at a high level in beach volleyball with Team Ontario. What I suspect will make Sara's story meaningful to you isn't that she has everything figured out. It's that she's actively making decisions in real time. Like a lot of students her age, she's navigating questions around post-secondary education, career direction, pressure, and identity, all while learning how discipline from sport and work shows up beyond the court. This conversation is less about having the perfect plan and more about how you think, choose, and grow when you're standing right at the edge of what's next. Sara, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe we should just kick things off. For people who are listening who don't know you yet, how would you describe your life right now?
Right now, I would say it's pretty chaotic, but also very exciting as I'm in my grade 12 year. I'm in exam season now, just got back from the break, which was super refreshing and nice to have, but obviously the grind doesn't stop. So we're back for one more month of the last semester, and then it's second semester and it's graduation, and everything flies by pretty fast. Everything gets super exciting with school and volleyball. So I'm just, in a very chaotic space right now, but all good stuff.
Nice. And I have to ask, how do you feel how exams went?
Well, I actually have exams coming up in 2 weeks. So the break was because in high school, it's like you finish all your coursework right before the break, and then you come back and you're prepping for all your exams and culminating tasks. So that's the process I'm in right now, is studying and getting ready for all that stuff.
Okay, cool. And studying going okay?
Yeah, stressful, but I did one of my exams over the break actually because it was an online course, so it was good to get that out of the way. So now I only have 3 more, which is good, but definitely still a lot of work to do.
Oh, I'm sure you'll handle it nicely.
Oh,
um, so you're in grade 12, working part-time, and you're also playing competitive volleyball at the
yes.
provincial level. What does a typical week look like for you?
Typical week. Most days are pretty jam-packed. I'm someone who likes to be very busy and keep myself on the move all the time. Otherwise, I don't really know what to do with myself. So Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, I have practice at Team O Beach, which is like an indoor facility just because it's obviously the winter and we can't play outside. So we train where Team Canada plays and where the national teams train for the Olympics, which is pretty cool. So we have 2 hour practices on those days, and then we have an hour lift right after our practice because they have a gym inside our facility. So that's super nice. Love all the resources. It's super great that beach volleyball is starting to expand into Canada because obviously it's pretty big in the US, but it's definitely starting to grow, which is nice. And then Wednesdays is kind of my chill day. I do play school volleyball, so I do have games on Wednesdays, and then I volunteer at a retirement center, and it's 2 hours every Wednesday just going through. It's kind of with my school, so there's a group of us. We go around just doing tasks that they might need help with, going on walks with them, painting their nails, baking with them, just stuff that, kind of gets them moving, gets them to do stuff they wouldn't normally do. So that's super rewarding to have that at the middle of the week to kind of keep me going and push me through and just have something that isn't school or volleyball related, which is nice. And then Thursdays is typically my day where I work. So I work at the restaurant. I'm a hostess. Can't serve till I'm 18, which is next month, but hopefully I can start serving soon. But I've been working for almost 4 years now. So I've been there, love it. Everyone's super nice. Everyone's super helpful. And I just love the community that I have there. So I typically work there once or twice a week, depending on how much volleyball or school I have that week. But Thursdays is typically the day I'll be there. Friday nights, practice again. And then Saturday mornings, I train for volleyball, and then I'll work Saturday nights. And then Sundays, typically work again, and then studying for whatever I have upcoming for the week and just prepping for the busy week I have ahead.
Wow. Okay, so when we look at like if we had that's quite a bit, and I love the fact that you have volunteering in there too, on top of the things that maybe you need to do. That's just
Mhm.
volunteering, you choose to do it or not. What inspired you to volunteer?
Honestly, one of my best friends, she started it. She started like a club that we have. It's called Hayden Helping Hands. So she started this club to volunteer at our like retirement center, and I just thought it was a really great opportunity. I've always wanted to do something with people or volunteering for an animal shelter. I've always already have my 40 hours that you need to graduate, so it's not really to get the volunteer hours, but it's grades 9 to 12. So a lot of the younger kids are doing it to get their volunteer hours cuz it is a requirement to graduate, but I just wanted to do something that was rewarding outside of all the things like you mentioned I already have to do. So, might as well throw something else in there.
Nice. So if someone followed you around for a day, what might surprise them about just a typical day for you?
Yeah, okay. If someone were to follow me, I'd probably say just how much I really put on my plate. Like, all my friends tell me that I'm constantly doing something. Like, I'll book appointments back to back to back. So I'm like going from place to place and rushing all around. And honestly, it's probably not very good for me, but it's just the way I function. And I feel like if I'm not doing something at all times, like, I'm not doing enough. So I feel like just how much I actually cram into my day would probably be a little scary for some people, but
So when it comes to school, sometimes we have subjects that we're really good at, maybe naturally, or that involve a lot of work,
mhm.
and some subjects that aren't all that great. What subjects do you tend to excel at, and what subjects are a challenge for you?
Yeah, I'm definitely more of the writer, English, psychology kind of girl. I love to write. I love to not have one direct answer when it comes to, I guess, classes and being able to like express your opinions more than and it be subjective more than one right answer, one wrong answer. So I guess that would mean I'm not so great at the math and sciences, but I try. I'm still taking them just because I wanted to go into psychology. So I was leaning more towards Bachelor of Science, so I'm keeping chemistry and biology and math in my realm, but they're definitely a little more challenging for me. Obviously, I still am doing decent in them, but definitely a lot harder than I would say writing essays. I think that's my forte is writing. I love to write.
So it sounds like it might come more naturally to you, the writing element of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so with the maths and the sciences, knowing that it's a bit of a steeper curve for getting it right, that sort of thing, what do you do to try to close
Try
that gap for something that doesn't come as naturally? Do you have tutors? Do you collaborate with friends?
Yeah, so I actually math I would probably say is my worst. Science is a little bit easier because there's especially with biology, it's not as much like calculations, and I think that's what kind of gets me. So math is just not that's the worst. But I did have a tutor last year for math, and then I was also taking it at the same time as chemistry, and together it just was not working for me. I was stressed every single day. My tests always fell on the same day. It was just an awful semester. So I kind of thought ahead and switched up how it would go for me this year. So I did advanced functions in the summer so I could focus just on the math and get it done in a month. Even though it took away from my summer vacation, I'm so glad I did that because everyone who's struggling right now, I am just so happy I'm not in that position doing math. So I'm glad I finished that. So now I can kind of like focus in just on chemistry, which is my only other big challenging subject, I'd say. So I definitely am really focused on the main goals and trying to like break up the two things that didn't work for me, which is definitely beneficial for me in grade 12.
Well done and very strategic. I'm just thinking back to when I was 17, which wasn't as long ago as you may think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have been as strategic at all. I was just like panicking in the moment. So good
Yeah.
on you for thinking ahead of time and thinking about your future version of yourself to make it a little bit easier for you to focus on. You said chemistry, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I want to touch on your experience with beach volleyball and maybe see if there's some lessons applicable lessons that are applied from what you've learned in volleyball to school and maybe how you approach your future career. So let's start with just how did you even get involved with competitive beach volleyball?
Yeah, so I was actually an indoor player to start. I started at 11 years old, so it was like 12U is what they call it. So that's when I had started at my indoor club. I played on the same team for 3 years. It was like the top because they have like in hockey there's like AAA, AA. So we have like colors in volleyball, I guess. So it was like the highest, you could call it AAA. So I was on the same team for 3 years and I loved it. I met some of my best friends there and I still am so appreciative of the indoor community that I had. But it just kind of got a little toxic for me, the environment of indoor and just like how competitive and I don't know, the things that a lot of people would end up doing. And the older you get, the more it was kind of leaning towards that. Whereas when I was younger, it was more just for fun and I just enjoyed the sport. I decided to actually move away to Florida at a boarding school for beach volleyball for 6 months in my ninth grade year. So, very first year of high school, my second semester. I moved from January to June of 2023. And I had never really played beach volleyball before, but I had done a camp that summer and I thought it was really fun. It's very different than indoor because it's only 2 players on the court instead of 6. And obviously you're in the sand, not on a hard court. So it's a lot harder to move in and a lot more strategic than people think. So I did that. I obviously the transition was very hard at the beginning, moving from being inside to like Florida heat, and we trained 5 hours every day. So two 2-hour practices. We'd have one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then we'd have an hour workout. And then we had recovery days on Wednesdays. So we'd go to this eye cryotherapy where we'd focus on like cold chambers, saunas, a lot of like stuff for our legs, like everything to keep us recovered throughout the week. And we also had access to a physical therapist on campus, like whenever we wanted, which was super helpful. And it really helped me see the independence of not just moving away, but like how different the two sports were and how adaptable you have to be in that kind of environment. But realizing how everyone was in the same situation as me, moving away from my home, it was a very scary and tough decision to make because obviously 14 years old, I'm moving to another country without my parents, without my friends. It's very hard, but I'd say it was the best decision I've ever made. So I continued that. I'd typically go for the second semester. I did it for grade 10 and then I did it for grade 11. And then this year, as I said, the beach community is starting to kind of get a little more active in Canada. So they had started a winter beach program for Team Ontario, which I had tried out for over the summer. I made. So that program started in October and it goes till April. So I don't think I'm going to be going to Florida this year just because I'm obviously committed to Team Ontario and we practice a lot. So there's really no need to move away because I was moving so that I could continue training. Because the goal was to originally go back to indoor eventually and just build kind of skill for myself and more confidence. And that was kind of the objective of moving away at the beginning. But I started to just fall in love with the sport in general. So I just started to pursue beach instead. And in hopes of achieving an NCAA scholarship in the States, which is still a goal. So that's where I am at now for beach.
Incredible. That's a really interesting approach to and dedication to the sport. You talked about there's a lot of changes in terms of your independence at 14. I'm even just imagining the adjustment to sand and way more ground to cover with 2
Yeah.
players on the court rather than 6. So was there ever a moment when you first made the decision, where you had maybe feelings of, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know if I want to do this? Can you walk us through maybe your thought process in the early stages being out there on your own?
Yeah, for sure. So I was kind of in a different situation than everyone else because most of the girls came for the whole year when you go to the school, and they all did school at the boarding school, whereas I was doing online school throughout like my home. So I kind of was on a different schedule and pace than everyone else. So they had all been there already for 6 months prior to me arriving because I came in January. They all started in August. And a lot of the girls were already committed. They were all seniors. I was in my ninth grade year. So obviously, that in itself is pretty scary, just being around and playing around girls who are 3 years older than you and who know the sport way better than you, and me kind of starting from scratch in a way. Like, obviously, I knew how to play volleyball, but just the adjustments of 2 people versus 6, the court versus the sand, like, there was just so many aspects where it was so hard, especially with the heat, like, really adapting to that. It's honestly a lot harder than people think. I've seen so many girls have heat strokes and just not be able to continue playing because it gets too much, and it's honestly a lot harder than people think. But honestly, that is kind of what pushed me to keep going, is the fact that it was so rewarding when I did play, because a lot of people can't handle that pressure and can't adapt to those environments, and I feel like I thrive in competitive environments, which was really helpful. And one of my best friends I met, she was from Brazil, and she kind of came to the school as more of an exchange year as opposed to training for the sport. So we were kind of in the same boat. We were both trying to, like, learn the new sport, learn the new environment. So having her along my side was definitely super helpful, and we really connected about those kind of things. And I think that really helped me in a way, is having someone who was going through the same thing, because a lot of the other girls were used to all these competitiveness and the 5 hours of training every day, whereas we weren't. So being in that together was super helpful.
Very insightful too, and it just kind of reiterates a couple of the themes that have come up in the prior episodes in terms of finding people that you can relate to, connect with, and who are
Yeah,
kind of walking the same walk as you.
yeah.
Amazing. What is something that volleyball has taught you about yourself that school never could?
I'd probably say just how to be more confident with myself, and just how to, I guess, be more adaptable. Like I mentioned, like, just going through those things, like, and switching so far into the sport where these girls had been playing since they were 8, 9 years old, and I'm kind of late to the game. It's definitely very hard on my mental and physical abilities, just like adapting to those things. But definitely learning those things was super rewarding, which helped boost my confidence, where I feel school is a little more restricted on people's confidence because people are so worried about their grades. It's so worried about needing to succeed to get successful for their futures. So I feel like it's honestly kind of draining trying to go to school and have a level of confidence when we're constantly being evaluated on everything. So I guess in the sport of beach volleyball, it's something I want to be doing and I want to be pursuing. So it's something I'm motivated to succeed at, whereas school is a little different sometimes, and it's a little more forced, I guess.
Yeah, and again, another thing that's come out of discussions is the fact that sometimes people put all of their value into school. So if I don't get a, if I'm 100% student, typically 99%, that affects my self-esteem because I didn't get that extra 1%. Do you
Yeah.
find that diversifying from school has helped you not take it, I guess maybe you have to take school seriously, but not
Mhm.
put so much of your self-value into how you perform at school?
Yeah, I feel like I've always kind of been someone who would excel at school, and I was always someone who was, like, hard on myself, and I feel like doing beach volleyball and learning about the new adoptions in a sport, it helped me to kind of give myself a little more leniency almost, because obviously we're learning new concepts all the time, and we're not used to this information, and the more you get older, the more difficult things get. So just, like, I guess being a little more diligent and easy on myself, because I know the struggles from an outside perspective from a sport, whereas some people are just so hard on themselves all the time because they're not used to not succeeding, because they've always, grown up like elementary school. It's simple stuff. Like, it's kind of hard not to succeed when that's the goal, is to prepare you for the level of hardness that you reach in high school. And I definitely saw that from grade 10 to 11. The difference in the math and the science is that really got me, and I was super hard on myself, I would say. But I feel like just understanding that it's hard on everyone and giving yourself a little more leniency.
And, I is how much do you use volleyball as an outlet? So let's say you have exams, you're frustrated, studying is getting a little crazy. Is has volleyball served as an outlet for you to just shut it down from school and just focus on the sport for a bit?
Yeah, it's definitely my escape. It's definitely my place where I can just be myself, not focus on all the stressors. I mean, sometimes if things are a little too stressful in my life, it does tend to take over my performance in the sport, and that can be difficult sometimes because it feels like the one thing that I should love and be interactive with. It's like I'm just going through the motions because there's so many things on my mind and there's so many things stressing me out from an outside perspective that it doesn't let me enjoy the sport to my full potential. So it is a little frustrating sometimes, but it definitely is helpful to have that piece where I can not focus my entire life on school and grades and have something that gives me access to build a future for myself aside from just my grades.
Amazing. Do you notice skills from volleyball showing up at work in school?
I definitely say so. I feel like especially with beach volleyball, like I said, it's partnership, so it's a little different than team sports where you have like a whole group of people and you're all kind of in it together where it's a little more dependent on each other when you're in a partnership because again, there's only two of you, so you have to be super supportive, you have to be super collaborative, you have to understand the needs of your partners and vice versa. Like you have to be super communicative on the court, otherwise like, there's no there's nothing that's gonna happen if you aren't communicating. Volleyball is all about communicating. So I think that's definitely reflected on my school and my work because again, communication is key everywhere you go in relationships. When you're working, like, being communicative if something isn't working or what is working and just having that level of respect for each other to be able to talk about your needs and their needs and just be on the same page is super important.
Okay. I'm putting so from a pressure perspective, there's two scenarios. So one scenario is let's say it's the ultimate pressure where final the game point type thing for the other team, you're down
Yeah.
a couple, and then the equivalent to that being pretty much where you are now with exams. So you're walking into an exam. Can you walk us through your mental approach in being in either of those scenarios or both to calm yourself down in a pressure high pressure situation?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So when I'm in a game and it's a tight match, close game, just honestly stepping aside, talking with my partner, making sure that we both understand we're in this because we love the sport, not because it's about winning. And obviously winning is super amazing and it's super rewarding when you do and obviously that's where people reach to get to is the competitive aspect of the sport. That's what you train for, competing, playing, and the fun part, obviously. But just understanding that we've both worked so hard to get to where we are and understanding each other and what we need from each other, maybe what's not working, talking about, like I said, just communicating and being there for each other. And definitely, I guess, from a personal aspect, just same thing, clearing my head, knowing that it's just a game, but putting my full effort into whatever the next few points would be. Diving for every ball, just making sure that I'm fully and 100% committed to my responsibility to my partner so that we're both kind of doing our jobs as partnerships. And same thing with school, just knowing that I've done everything I can to, I guess, prepare myself and there's nothing else I can do. I'm about to walk into the exam. I've studied as much as I could, just giving myself again that leniency to be like you've worked as hard as you can. Just try and focus, try and get into an easy mental state where I can relax and not just be stressed about what might be on the exam.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's a sense of peace, both in both scenarios. If you know you've put everything forward in school, it's studying as much as you could to possibly prepare, and
Yeah.
then diving for every ball in the volleyball scene. If you know that, that just has there has to be a sense of peace that comes over
Yeah,
you, I
for
would
sure.
imagine. Okay, so where are you with your right now with your post-secondary decisions? You touched on maybe the desire to go to the States and play.
Mhm.
You mentioned the program that you're looking at, but where are you in terms of application process or just walk us through like how what you're expecting between now and the time that you go to post-secondary?
Yeah. So obviously, yeah, like I mentioned, the goal is to play in the States. And obviously as a Canadian, it's a lot harder just because the prices, especially as an international student already, it's going to be more expensive. But on top of that, the exchange rate, it's definitely very different than Canadian schools. And what most people are prepared to pay for. So I feel like just really working towards that's why I think it's so important in school for me because obviously I want to be able to help as much as possible with academic and athletic aid. So just I feel like that's why school is so important for me because it's not just about volleyball. I have to be prepared in both aspects and obviously beyond post-secondary and beyond university, like I need an education that will help me be successful. So I think it's super important to not throw all my eggs in one basket and focus just on one or the other, just being super I guess, focused in on both. But yeah, just keeping all my options open. I've applied to a few Canadian schools as backup options because even then I don't have to accept anything until May. So I have right before graduation to make any decisions. I do have a few offers from schools in the States, but again, it just comes down to waiting for the application, seeing how much scholarship I can get, and just, yeah. So I do have options. I've even thought about studying abroad and playing beach volleyball out there for a year maybe and seeing what that looks like and then transferring back. So I'm kind of spread all of my options all over just to be able to have the opportunity to decide what I want to do.
Amazing, and congratulations on the offers, whether you take them or not, that's a nice little nod in your direction. Must
Mhm.
be some good validation there. Again, I'm just blown away by your ability to think ahead and not put all of your, like, sense of worth or value or currency into, like, even just the fact that you have offers. Sometimes maybe some people would just say, "This is what I'm doing, 100%. I'm not going to look at the other options." In
Yeah.
your case, it sounds like you're applying to Canadian schools and understanding that even the sport itself, it may or may not work out, but you have a
Yeah.
backup plan for a career. So well done, you.
Thank you.
Do you feel pressure to have it all figured out in terms of like right now you're in it and there sounds like there's quite a few moving parts. Do you ever it's not maybe 100% the time that you feel the pressure, but do you feel sometimes that you want to know what the end looks like versus just kind of taking each day as it comes?
Yeah, definitely am someone who loves to plan ahead and I love to know what's happening and it's a little hard for me to accept the fact that I can't control everything and I can't plan everything out because it's just not how life works. So I guess just having those options is super important for me because it gives me the opportunity to decide on what I want to do and not kind of be forced or told on what to do. So I think that's kind of why I've been so focused on planning ahead and so focused on creating, I guess, a big plan and goal for myself over the last 4 years because I know how important it is for myself to be able to make that decision for me and not have someone else make it.
On that, there's a lot of life decisions that you're making, even at the age of 14, deciding to go to Florida.
Yeah.
How do you make those big decisions? It sounds like you're heavily involved in them yourself, but do you have like is there logic? Is it gut decisions? Do you rely on others to help you kind of walk through scenarios?
Yeah, I'd say my mom has been there throughout every decision I made. She's been my biggest supporter for volleyball and school and just wanting to be me to be successful. So often, whenever I have a hard decision to make, because I'm hard to believe, but I'm very indecisive as a person. But so those big life altering decisions are super important for me, and that's kind of what stresses me out. So that's why I like to keep all my options open so that again, like if I decide that maybe this isn't for me, I have other options. But often before any big decision, whether it's applying to a school or I guess just getting these new experiences that I'm not used to, we tend to make a SWOT analysis, listing everything, kind of putting it all out there. We like to do the pros, the cons, see what I guess the opportunities can be, but also what could be taken away by making that decision. So we definitely like cover all bases, make sure that I'm making the decision that I want to be making again because I don't want someone else to have to make that decision for me or me make the wrong decision for myself and have to be forced into doing something I'm not going to enjoy.
Right. Pros and cons is one thing. A SWOT analysis
Yeah.
is another.
No, yeah. She loves the SWOT analysis. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I think I have like 30 different pages of SWOT analysis on different huge life altering decisions that we've made, whether it's been in the airport when we're flying to a country to visit a school, or whether it's been at home. Like we've made SWOT analysis everywhere. We do them in restaurants, we do them wherever we are.
Wow. Sure, business isn't a part of your calling?
Sorry?
Are you sure business isn't a part of your calling? SWOT analysis is generally applied to business, but
Yeah. I mean, that's more her forte. She's more of the business girl, and that's where I get that sense of a little bit of business in me.
right, right. Okay, so when you think about so you're looking at maybe taking your psychology program,
Mhm.
what do you think the outcome for that is? Like, how would you like to approach, earning that degree? What kind of career do you want to get into?
Yeah, I've always been super interested and intrigued on helping people. At first, I didn't know what that wanted to be, but I think at the age of 8, I knew I wanted to do psychology, believe it or not, but I have always been super interested in the field of, I guess, understanding people and why they do what they do, why they behave the way they do. I even took the Intro to Psychology, Sociology, and Anthropology course a year early. It was a grade 11 course. I took it first semester of grade 10 because I was just so eager to like learn about it, and I was just so intrigued, and it was the first time where I got to pick a course instead of being told what we're learning and being forced to do something I'm not. So I think high school was really nice for me to experience like electives and doing something that you're actually interested in, whereas grade school was like you're going to learn about every single thing, which I guess in a way was helpful to see what I guess I liked and what I didn't. So I was always super interested in psychology. The goal so far right now is to be a therapist or a psychologist to help. I've always been interested in doing like more sports psychology, I think, especially being an athlete and going through so many different challenges and so many different obstacles, and just wanting to help other young kids when I have the ability to give them the guidance that maybe I didn't have, which I think I've just always leaned towards. So, yeah, definitely something along the lines of psychologist, therapist, something like that.
Nice. Good stuff. So we've touched on the fact that you work part-time
Yes.
and you managed to fit that into your very busy schedule. How has working part-time changed how you think about money, independence, work in general?
Yeah, I've always been super eager to work. I applied to Jackson's Landing as soon as I was legal to start working at the age of 14. I was still in 8th grade when I started working there, and I've always been someone who loves to work and loves to make money. I love to shop, so I had to start fending for myself at some point when my parents were sick of my shopping addictions and Starbucks addictions, but um, I've definitely noticed how important it is to start saving, especially with all these different expenses with school that I have started to definitely like I start to see now that I'm a little bit older and understand coming with post-secondary. And I do have an older brother, so he just graduated from university last year. So just understanding like how important my family definitely has guided me and taught me how to save and how important it is, which I think is super helpful and super nice to have because I work to obviously be able to treat myself and buy things when I want, but it's also important that I'm saving a chunk of that for my future.
Nice. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Um, what do you think people your age misunderstand most about success in general?
I think honestly, just thinking that they need to have everything figured out right now and thinking that whatever decisions they're making right now is what the rest of their life is going to be. I know at least I get in that sense of a headspace sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, I need to know exactly what I'm doing. I need to figure out my whole life. I need to plan it. But like, honestly, just taking a step back and realizing like, no matter where you end up in life, there's always another way. There's always something else that you can do. And you're meant to be where you are. And it's just super important to remember that everyone's path is different and it's not going to look the same for everyone. And just making sure that you're focused in on the things that you enjoy and not what you think you're expected to do or what's gonna make you the most money, but just following what you're passionate about and, yeah, just relying on your gut, your instinct.
Well put. And I'm going to go on this theme with people your age. And I'm always fascinated with how maybe your cohort generation has grown up with social media like always existing. And I'd be remiss not to ask, how do you manage comparison from a lifestyle perspective and what your peers might be doing from an education perspective when it's constantly in your face online? How do you temper that?
Yeah, I think it's just super important to remember that everything you see online is not necessarily the reality of it, and social media and online is meant to, I guess, put your life out there to make it look more exciting and look like you have all these things happening, and obviously, I'm the same, I love to share and show my life to my friends and just be interactive, and I definitely am very not addicted, but I'm definitely a very type of person that uses their social media a lot, and I guess that's my way of communication, and that's kind of how my generation has grown up is, like, we've always had social media, that's our way of communicating with each other, and just talking about it with my mom, like, how they never had even phones when she was a kid, like and just thinking how different the technology has been built, but just to remembering how important it is to not everything you see online is realistic, and just remembering that, again, everyone has their own path, and it's super important to stick to your own.
Yeah, well put. When you feel unsure, just think of any feelings of being uncertainty, whether it's school, sport, just maybe even managing a friendship. Um, what helps ground you if you feel like a sense of stress or anxiety around what you're dealing with?
I think when it comes to school and planning things more for myself and more individual goals, I think it's super important that I map out everything that I know I need to be doing and planning out, like I said, I love to plan and I love to be like know what's happening. And I guess when everything's stressing me out in my head, it kind of just feels like there's so many things happening that I don't know how to prioritize what actually needs to be prioritized. So putting it out on paper, seeing it in front of me, realizing it's not as much as I think, and mapping out a schedule for when I can complete these things, and I guess just focusing in on the priorities and seeing them in front of me is super helpful. And same thing with like relationships and friends. Like if there's something wrong, communicating about it, like I mentioned before, it's the key to really anything in life, just making sure that you're being honest and you're being respectful of other people's boundaries and yeah, just communicating.
Yeah. Okay, great. What's something you are more confident about now than you might have been a year ago?
I'd probably say just trusting myself more, maybe. I think over the last 4 years, I've learned so much about myself that I never would have expected to come, and obviously, if you had told me as a kid I would have the life that I do right now and have all these experiences and memories and life lessons that I've learned, I probably would not believe you because it's honestly so surreal, like, all the privileges and experiences that my parents have provided for me. Um, yeah, I guess just trusting myself more, trusting in the timing, and being more patient. I feel like grade 10 and 11, I was super stressed out with school. I was so caught up in thinking that I needed to be committed because that's when girls started to be able to get committed. That's when you can start talking to schools, and obviously, I felt like I was a little late to the game, so I was constantly worried about not being on the same page as everyone else and being behind, but I feel like, again, everyone has their own journey, everyone has different timings, and just allowing myself to trust in that.
Cool. And so when you think about adulthood as you approach it, you said you're turning 18 in a month or so.
Yeah.
So in general, what do you hope stays the same about you as you move into adulthood?
I would probably say just ensuring that I'm giving myself the rest and I guess, ability to have a social life as well because, like I mentioned, I'm a super busy person and sometimes it gets hard because I don't have that social aspect of my life that I guess everyone needs in their life. And it's hard to see my friends when I'm constantly doing all these things that I'm committed to in volleyball and school and these things that I want to succeed at, of course. So I'm not going to give that up to have my social life, but just remembering that it's super important to incorporate those things. And even when school and volleyball is stressful, making sure that I create that time for myself because if I don't, none of the things that I'm doing are enjoyable and it's for nothing. Because again, I'm just going through the motions and I'm working hard, but I'm not getting to play hard. So just making sure I have that balance in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. I mean, again, I'm not much older than you, but I'd say that's a super thing to master. Sooner you learn that, the better, because we can burn ourselves out if we focus on the one thing.
Yeah.
It all kind of helps. Um, yeah, so well put. Okay. And you have other people that are going through it with you. So if you think about just other peers out there that might be listening, what advice would you give other grade 12 students or even high school students in general who are feeling overwhelmed by choices?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely something I get super overwhelmed with. So just again, like doing what's right for you and not necessarily following in what everyone else is doing, like being true to yourself, whatever works for you, like just being allowed to have your own path is super important. Not needing to follow in anyone else's footsteps, but again, just planning your life based on what you want from it, not what you're expect to have from it is super important. And I think just again, listening to yourself, listening to your body. I know with sport, like it can get super overwhelming, not just physically, but mentally, especially when I'm in this constant cycle of training all the time and school all the time and I'm not getting the fun part of it. I'm not getting to compete. I'm not getting to have a break where I can just be with my friends. So just making sure that you're giving yourself that freedom to do that as well.
Great. I think it's a good way to end the formal line of questioning.
Yeah.
Now we're going into the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So you just got to think on your feet, and I'm just going to shoot them out. You got about 10 seconds to answer. Okay?
Okay. Got
All
it.
right. Morning or night person?
Night.
Beach or indoor volleyball?
Beach.
Structure or flexibility?
Structure.
Big plans or keeping options open?
Keeping options open.
Risk taker or cautious thinker?
Risk taker, I'd say.
What's your confidence booster?
What's my confidence booster?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, Probably, oh my gosh. I guess self-validation.
Self validation.
Yeah.
One word that describes this year.
Uh, Exciting.
One skill you're proud of.
My independence.
Something you're still figuring out.
My patience.
A habit you want to keep after high school.
My planning abilities.
One thing adults underestimate about people your age.
Um, Probably how much we really understand about the adult world and the real world.
Good stuff. Sarah, that's it. Thank you very much for joining me today. I think I didn't know what to expect coming into this. I know leading up to the exchanges, you spoke about how busy you were and a little bit about your volleyball, but I didn't realize how serious you are into it right now. And you're literally on the cusp of potentially playing in the States or doing something else. So the insights from the sport and even what you're doing with school, I know are going to help our listeners. So thank you very much for cramming me into your busy schedule. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And that's a wrap with Sarah. What I love about this conversation is how real time it is. She's still in it. Grade 12, exams, part time work, volunteering, and training at a level that could open doors to the NCAA. But the bigger takeaway isn't just volleyball or scholarships, it's how she thinks, planning ahead, staying adaptable, using communication as a skill, and learning to separate self worth from performance, whether that performance is on the court or in the classroom. If you're a student or young adult feeling overwhelmed by choices right now, let it be a reminder. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a process. And you need permission to keep options open while you figure out what fits. If this episode resonated, share it with a friend who's in that what's next season, and make sure you're following Flashback Files so you don't miss the next conversation. Sara, thank you again for taking the time, and good luck with everything you've got coming up. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep learning, and keep moving forward. We'll see you on the next one.